Hi, this is Jay Spillers, and I'm here with Inspire Me with Jay. I have part two of my interview with Sharon Milliman. She had four near-death experiences. Today, she's here to discuss her third and fourth NDE. Sharon, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, you talked about your first two NDEs on our first episode. Why don't you tell us about your third NDE, and then we'll get into your fourth. What happened during your third near-death experience?
In my with my third near-death experience, it kind of picks up where my second one left off. And what happened is I had emergency surgery for a bowel blockage. And during the surgery, what happened, it was something with the breathing tube, and I stopped breathing. And I went above the table and I could see what they were doing. I could see they had blue hats on and blue gloves, and I could see their gloves, their hands inside. I saw the blood on the gloves, and it was like, that's too much information for me. So I kind of went up in the corner of the room, and yet I could still see what they were doing, but it was like really gross. So I'm sitting in the corner of the room and I'm watching them do what they do. And there was this, it kind of looked like an upside down whirlpool, a sparkly rainbow colored thing that was up in the corner next to me, and it was going up this way instead of down. And I just went right up through that. And I ended up back in heaven again in the exact same places that I had been before in my second near-death experience. I recognized all the landmarks. There was a fieldstone wall with pink roses growing up and over it, and I saw that. I saw the garden, but I was standing in a different position. I was standing next to the golden wall that surrounded what I call the glorious city. And that wall was very tall, and I kept hitting it thinking, okay, where's the hidden door? I want to get through that wall. And there's no way I can jump it. It's too high. And it didn't dawn on me that the gates were open, and all I had to do was just walk a few feet down from where I was standing and just go right on into the gates. And what I heard, there was commotion going on behind the wall. It looked like giant pure gold cinder blocks, and it was very tall. And what I heard going on in the background is it sounded like there was a party going on. I heard dishes clanging and people talking and laughing and this happy type music playing. And as I'm standing next to the golden wall, there's this little brown and white beagle puppy, and he runs up to me and he's jumping at my feet and he's wanting me to play with him. So I lean down and I'm playing with this little beagle puppy and actually interacting, touching and rubbing his tummy and playing with him. And as I look out, I see this beautiful field of this tall grass, and there was lots of beautiful flowers, and it's kind of swaying like this in the breeze. And this once again, like in my second, my senses were so heightened. I was so aware of everything that was going on, and the colors were just magnificent, and the smell, the air was just sweet and crisp from all the flowers. And so this is like a meadow in front of me, and down a ways on the left-hand side of me, I could see the garden where I had been previously. And there were all kinds of people pouring out of that garden. So I'm assuming the garden is some kind of receiving center or welcoming center of some sort. But they were coming out, and there were people from all traditions, religions, belief systems, colors, shapes, sizes, ages, just people from everywhere. So I'm standing there and I see two. Okay, I'll back up. Everybody that I saw had an angel with them, and this angel was taller and more illuminated than the people were, and that's how I knew that was an angel that was with them, and everyone had their own. And they were wearing like white robes and this light blue sash that kind of went across. And so, but the people were all like talking to each other and laughing and visiting. And I saw two Middle Eastern men, and they had the white robes on and the, you know, whatever, the veils on their heads and whatever. And the two of them were talking and laughing with each other. And they walked past me and walked into the city. There was a man who appeared to be from like New York, and I don't know if he was a construction worker, a telephone worker or something, but he had a hard hat on still, and he had a vest on that had tools tucked down in the vest, and he walked past me. There were, like I said, there were many, many people, but there were two specific people that came into my view, and the younger of the two I had recognized. He had died years ago. He was the son of a friend of mine, and he was escorting an older gentleman with him, and they walked past me, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my gosh, I know you." And they just smiled at me and nodded, and they went into the city. Well, there's a little more to the experience, but the most important parts were the two men that I saw and the puppy. And after I got back to my body, and I was still hooked up to breathing machines, and nurse was standing over me, and it wasn't until I got back to my room and I picked up my phone, and there was a message from a joint friend of mine and the woman whose son had passed away. And the message was that this woman's husband had passed away while I was in surgery that day. And I said, I know, because I saw him with her son, and they went into the city together. And the little puppy, I didn't know what that was about until I told my daughter about the experience. And she told me, I never had a little brown and white beagle puppy, so I didn't know where he fit into it. And she had told me that they had to call the police because there was a neighbor of theirs down the street who had a little brown and white beagle puppy, and he had beat it to death, so he got arrested. And my daughter had never told me that. And so I was able to tell her that our pets do go to heaven. And I saw that little puppy, and he was fine. He was happy and roly-poly, and he looked perfect. There was no, he wasn't hurt or anything like that. And so that was that made her more comfortable, knowing that the puppy was okay and that our pets do go to heaven. So that was the major part of that one.
So do you think God brought the puppy and the other man into your near-death experience to sort of help confirm what had happened to you?
Yes, when I came out of my, the anesthesia or whatever, and I had been told by the nurses that I had aspirated, and that's what caused me to stop breathing. I had asked to see the anesthesiologist, and he came in, and I said, "Can you dream when you are under anesthesia?" And he said, "No, because I give you a concoction of medication to take you as close to death as possible, and I give you another concoction of medication to bring you back." And he asked me why. And I said, because I was in heaven. And I no sooner said that, and his eyes got real big. He started flipping through my chart, and he turns and he walks out of the room, and he won't talk to me anymore. He sends the nurse in. 6 weeks later, I go to my surgeon's office to have the staples removed. And I tell him the same thing, that during that surgery, I saw you. I saw what you were doing. I died. I went to heaven. And I tried to talk to him about it, and he wouldn't talk to me either. He did the same kind of thing, you know, the big eyes and flipping through the chart. And he gets up and he leaves, sends his nurse in to talk to me and to remove. And I never saw him after that. He just didn't want to deal with that. So I think that's one thing that, you know, I knew what had happened, and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a dream. You know, I knew it wasn't a dream. It didn't feel like a dream. It was more real, but I wanted to make sure. And when the anesthesiologist said, no, you can't dream while you're that deep under anesthesia. And then the man coming, and, you know, I recognized him and I saw him, and his father died. So that was a confirmation. And then the puppy was a confirmation that it in fact did happen. And what I was seeing was real.
So were you able to hear what they were saying in their minds? Because I've heard some near-death experiencers have been in the same room with people, and they could not only hear what was being spoken, but they could hear people's thoughts. Were you able to hear their thoughts too?
In heaven or
No, when you were in
doctors?
the operating room before you went to heaven?
I could hear them talking, but I was really grossed out by what they were doing and seeing their hands inside my body and the blood on the gloves. That was enough to put me in the corner. I didn't want to see anymore. I didn't want to hear anymore, but I did hear them talking. And like I said, I was way up in the corner, you know, sitting way above them. And I could see, I mean, I saw their heads bent down like this. I could see the tops of the hats that they were wearing. I could see the gloves, and they were blue. And, you know, I heard them talking. I didn't hear any kind of like alarm in their voice, or I didn't pick up any kind of alarm. I just heard them talking, and then I left. So.
And you said that your second.
And then when I did.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, when I got back into the my room, I asked what in the world happened. You know, I ended up with pneumonia. I came out of the surgery with pneumonia, and the nurses told me you had aspirated during your surgery, which caused pneumonia. And that's what happened to you. So I was able to talk to the nurses about it, but the doctors wouldn't talk to me about it.
So your second and third NDEs were pretty much really close in time to each other? Were they like from the same hospital visit?
No. My second one happened in 2005, where I was struck by lightning. My third one happened in November of 2016. So it was many years later, but
Oh, okay.
I was right back in the same places. I saw the same landmarks, the garden. I saw the wall. I saw, you know, with the roses coming up and over it. I saw the meadow of flowers. I saw, you know, the glorious city, which I had seen before. But in my third one, I'm standing right up against the wall. In my second one, I was more in the garden. I was further back. I mean, I could draw it on a paper for you and show you, you know, where things were situated.
So was the garden before you entered the wall, before you entered the gates?
Yeah, yes. You go through the garden. These people came out of the garden where I had been in my second near-death experience. They walked through the meadow and into the gates. And the gates were open, and there was people there to receive them. People were laughing and talking, and there was a party. They were getting ready for a party. I could hear it. But I couldn't move. I mean, I couldn't figure out how to get from where I was standing just a couple feet down and just slip right into those gates. And, and I thought about it, and I kept thinking, well, how am I going to jump this wall? I'm pressing on the wall, trying to find some hidden door, and there's nothing. And I'm just thinking, why can't I, I want to go in those gates. Why can't I go in those gates? But then I started noticing all these people coming, and they were going in, and then the little puppy, and he was playing with me, and I got, I was just there was so much beauty and so much love and so much, it was so gorgeous, and I was just like I said in my other NDE, I was like a feather on the breath of God, and I'm just floating along, and everything is just so gorgeous. But I think that this NDE, where there was a lot that was similar or the same, there was a different reason for it happening. And I think it was to tell that lady that her son was okay. Her husband was with her son and he was okay. And to tell my daughter that the puppy was okay. That's the only thing I can think of.
Did it seem like the third one was a lot shorter than the second one? I mean, obviously there's no time exactly,
yes.
But did it feel shorter?
Yes, it did. It felt as in depth, but not as long. And there is no time, so it's hard for me to tell how long I was there, but I saw a lot. There was a lot of activity. There was a lot of things going on. But with my third one, it wasn't like there were messages for me. It was like it happened so that I could come back and tell someone else what they needed to hear, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Jesus in the third one?
It was, no, not in the second one. I mean, not in the third one. I didn't. The only spiritual beings I saw were the people that had died and the angels that were with them. And each person had their own angel, but there were hundreds of people coming out of that garden and walking through the meadow and going into the gates. It was just like person after person after person after person. And then I saw the young man that I recognized, and I saw the father with him. And then, of course, the puppy. So I did see the angels, but I didn't see Jesus or God at that particular experience.
Was there an angel there with you or for you?
No, if there was one, I didn't see him. Everybody else had an angel. I was just standing there. It was now there. I will tell you that there was after all of that happened, before I came back to my body, I had wandered around, and there was like a courtyard. There was a building, and I sometimes I'll leave this part out because I don't want to offend anybody. But anyway, I went to this building, and the architecture was magnificent. It was, archways and columns. Okay, so there was this beautiful building, and I'm standing in the courtyard. It's kind of like a stone front porch or something. It was very beautiful. And so I'm standing in this courtyard, and I see that there are these two gigantic doors. And they were wooden, very ornate, heavy wooden doors. I mean, they were huge. And there was one in the front of the building and one in the back of the building. And there were two humongous angels, giant angels, standing, one at the front door and one at the back door. And they had these keys, and you couldn't get in that building unless they unlocked the door and opened the door for you. So I'm standing in this courtyard, and this giant angel opens this humongous door. And I go inside the building, and he's with me. And there's nothing inside the building. It's just columns and archways and beautiful, big, huge stained glass window. And the light was coming through the stained glass window. And the floors were like glass. They were marble. And the only thing that was in that room, in the center of the room, was this giant golden podium. And on the podium was this beautiful book. It was huge. It was a big book. It was a living book. There was light that was coming out of the book. So I walked up to the book and I looked at the pages, and the pages were not paper. They were like breathing, a living material of some sort. And on the pages was written in gold, some kind of ancient script. I don't know if it was ancient Hebrew or what language it was, but it looked like symbols written in golden ink. And so I'm standing there and I'm trying to read what's on the page, and I can't understand what it is I'm looking at. And I waited for the angel to explain to me, because I said, I can't read this. I don't know what this is. And he didn't say anything. He just kind of stared straight ahead. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to get any answers from him. So I don't know what this book is saying. So I turned and I left, and he followed me out, and we're standing in the courtyard. And all of a sudden I get this like I'm hooked up to another IV bottle of knowledge, and I'm just getting this infusion. And I hear the angel say, to read from the book of life is a gift. And I looked at him and I thought, okay. And then he went further to say that to read the book of life comes from your heart. You don't use devices in order to read the book of life, which people call the Akashic records. And I couldn't read it. It wasn't my gift. He said everybody has their own special gifts, and not everybody has the same gift. And that was not a gift that I had. I could not read somebody else's page in the book of life. And he said, to read it, you read with your heart. You don't use devices. And there are people out there that are getting all kinds of information, but they're not getting the right kind of information, because they're not doing it the way, that they're not using the gift in the right way, reading it from their heart. And, God gives gifts like prophecy and speaking in tongues and interpretation and all, visions and all kinds of gifts, but not everybody has the same one. And that's what the angel was trying to explain to me. And then it was shortly after that I left the courtyard, and that's when I went back to my body. So those were the three important things about this particular NDE, that I saw the man and his son, I saw the dog, and then the angel explained to me about this book of life. And sometimes when I tell that part of the story, people get upset with me because they don't believe that. They, think that they can access whatever. I think the angel was trying to tell me that there's information coming from many, many sources. And you have to be very careful what you're listening to and how you're getting that information, because you're not going to get it through computer programs. You're not going to get it through pendulums. You're not going to get it through tarot card readings and all of that kind of thing. You're going to get information, but you're not going to get what you think you're getting, is basically what he was telling me. It depends. Well, from what the angel was saying to me, the book of life, every single soul that's ever existed or will ever exist is written in that book. Your whole life, everything you think, everything you do, everything you've done, everything you will do, it's all in that book. And I don't have access to your page unless God gives me that access, or you give me that access, or whatever. I mean, it's not like I can just go to that book and look somebody up. And there are people out there that think that they can just, they can access something like that through using devices of some sort. And the angel was telling me that you can get all kinds of information using those devices, but you're not going to get what you think you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And to actually read from the book of life, it comes from your heart. You don't need devices to read it. And I don't know why that was an important message for him to tell me, because I don't use pendulums and computer programs and tarot cards. I don't do that stuff. But there's other people out there that do. And I respect everybody. You can do what you want. But the angel specifically told me these things, and I'm not sure why. So.
Well, and it's kind of
The only thing I could do is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, it kind of gets to like, mediums and things like that. Because there was this one woman, she was a doctor. She had her son had committed suicide. And she had this medium lady that would sort of communicate what the son was saying. And it sounded kind of interesting for a while. And then it's like, okay, then we started doing these interviews, like the son supposedly brings in Abraham Lincoln or JFK. One time he brought in Hitler, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a little goofy, It just, and she's saying things that he would say that I don't think someone on the other side would say. And I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I think I know for myself, there are many after effects to having a near-death experience. And one of those after effects is spirit communication, seeing spirits, visually seeing spirits. They're not just, ghosts slamming doors and whatever. I see people, but I don't call them to me. I don't use devices. If they show up, they show up. If they talk to me and I can hear them, then I acknowledge them as the people that they are, because when we die, we are still people, only people with different bodies. That's all. Mm-hmm. And so, but there are people out there who do definitely have the gift of being able to hear and see spirits and communicate. But then there's others that don't. And that's what's scary, because what are they contacting? I mean, who are they actually talking to? Unless they have evidential information that they are definitely speaking with the person they think they're talking to. It gets, I don't know. There's a line, I guess, a spiritual line, I think. I don't know. But I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not judging anybody. They can do whatever they want to do, and it's perfectly fine. But for myself, I don't dabble in that kind of stuff, because I do believe that dabbling in things like that can cause negative spirits or evil spirits to be influenced. You know what I'm saying? Or come through and I definitely believe there's evil, and there's a lot of people out there that don't believe there is, and there is. I saw it, I witnessed it, and it was like, okay, this is definitely not good, and I don't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. But sometimes people do it and they're unwitting. I mean, they're unwittingly doing it. They don't mean to do it. They don't know what they're doing when they mess with things, and doorways open up that are better left shut. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason the angel was telling me, because there seems to be a a lot of people doing things right now that are
Not good.
could be opening doorways that they don't that are not really for their best interest, I guess.
So changing subject,
I don't know.
in the garden, you said that you saw different kinds of colors. What was the scenery like? Did you see trees or flowers? Did you see grass?
Oh, I did. Trees and flowers. The grass was, it was like meadow grass, real tall, and the wind was blowing, and it was sort of doing this in the wind. And I saw just wildflowers of every color. I saw the like the purples with the yellows, and the blues with the pinks, and all of these different colors. And there were colors I didn't even know what they were called, but everything was so brilliant, so vibrant. And it was like a meadow mixed with the grass, the tall grass and the wildflowers. And it was absolutely breathtaking. And then there were trees. I saw trees and other landscapes. And then, of course, the garden was over in the corner off to the left of me, you know, sort of tucked away in the among other trees. And that's where I saw people coming out of it. And they were walking through the meadow and into the gates. And I, of course, I'm standing at the wall trying to get through the wall. And I can't get through the wall.
But you never made it through the gates to go into the city?
No, I think that my border was the wall when I couldn't get past that.
Mm-hmm.
My fourth one happened, it was like a year later, December of 2017. And I was in the hospital because I had had seizures, and I had an adverse reaction to medication. And I quit breathing. I went into what they call acute respiratory acidosis. And only thing I remember is laying in my bed, and I was very tired, and I fell asleep. And the next thing I know, I'm like in a fetal position. I could see myself in a fetal position, and I'm floating up, up, up like a helium balloon. And I'm just rising up, 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 up. And I find myself in this very dark place that was not scary at all. And I had heard of, in the different groups, I had heard about the void experience. And I wasn't afraid to die, but I was afraid of going to the void. So that's where I went. And it was very dark, and it was very peaceful. And I did get the feeling that there were other people around, but it was so dark I couldn't see them. And I was wrapped in what felt like a black velvet blanket. And I could see myself in the blanket, as well as seeing myself in the bed, you know, outside of the blanket. And I am curled up on my left side in the fetal position, and I'm inside this blanket. And what I could see was, like, if you hold a piece of fabric up to the light bulb, you can see the little holes, and you can see light coming through the blanket or the fabric. And that's what I could see. Little, what then it looked like stars, but I think it was just a brilliant light coming through this black velvet blanket, and it looked like stars. And then, but I felt so cozy and comfortable and warm and protected and not afraid at all. And it was like, I felt better inside the blanket where I was protected. So I was amused at seeing the what looked like stars on the outside of the blanket, but it was like, I'd rather be on the inside where it's cozy and warm. And it was almost like I was a baby in the womb again. And then I heard what sounded like God talking, but he was formless. I couldn't, you know, and at that particular time, I was very depressed, and I was tired of being sick, and I wanted to leave. And I heard I don't know if he was talking to my soul or if he was talking to someone else about me, but he was just kind of holding me in these gigantic hands. And he was saying, let's not be too hasty here. Let's not make a hasty decision. Just rest. Just rest. That's all you need. You just need to rest. And so I just rested there. I was suspended in this place, this beautiful, warm, dark, comfortable, cozy place. And I just wanted to stay there. I wasn't scared. I wasn't hurting. I was nothing. I didn't want, it was like he was saying, don't do anything hasty. Because if it was left to me, I would have made a decision to leave, and that would have been that. But he was telling me, don't be hasty. Let's think about this. Just let me hold you. Just let me hold you. And you just rest. And then after that, it was like instant coming back into my body. And I opened my eyes, and there's a brilliant light in my room, and the doctor standing next to my bed. I have a non-breather oxygen mask on, and the doctor standing next to the bed screaming at me, and there are nurses everywhere. And my husband was across the room coming in the doorway, and all I could see was, the light hurt my eyes so bad. And all the commotion and everything. It was so painful to come back from that quiet, peaceful, dark place to this chaotic, noisy, light-filled room. And I was like, oh no, please send me back. Let me go back. So that was that experience.
Why do you think that you went into a dark void this time as opposed to one with a beautiful garden and beautiful scenery? You think it was because you were depressed?
I think so. I had this, I think the void is just a place for where people go when they're making the decision to come, stay, or go, or it's the birthplace of all creation, or it's not a bad place. It's not like you're in purgatory or you're in hell or anything like that. At least from my experience, it wasn't like that, and I wasn't afraid. But it was like a place of holding, a place of waiting, or maybe a place of where you go before you go to the next level or something. But I know that with my first experience, I saw the light. With my second and my third, I was in heaven. And with the fourth, I had the void. So I've had all of these different experiences, and none of them were scary. They weren't frightening or painful or horrific or anything like that. So I guess my message to people is, don't be afraid to die, because we go back and we do go on. We don't stop being who we are. And as far as a void experience, I think it was just because I was depressed and I was done. I was out. I was ready to leave. And God was like, no, just wait, just hang on, think about it.
Was the void still a peaceful and pleasant place to be?
And I found it to be very loving. It was for me. I did not find it to be frightening at all. I found it to be a place of waiting, a place of rest, a place of some place for me to just be and be protected and be loved. And while my soul and God made the decision as to whether I was coming back or not, because like I said, if it was left up to me, I was not coming back. But apparently he had other plans, because he was like, just, slow down. Let's not be hasty. Let's think about this. And it was not a bad experience for me. I other people may have different experiences with it, but my void experience was very pleasant. And I'm not one to like the dark. You know, I never have been, even as a child. I didn't like the dark, but I found this dark to be very, very peaceful, very quiet, very calming.
Is it possible that for some people, if they don't know what's going on and they're not hearing or seeing anything, that they think, oh my gosh, I'm in hell, and then they start kind of panicking, and it feels like hell
Yeah.
at that point for them?
Yeah. I do think that we can, from what I was shown about hell is that it's a state of being, and it can manifest as a place based on where we are in our life. If we are in a dark place and we die in a dark place, you're going to go to a dark place until your vibration raises. And I don't think that hell is a state of eternity. And I think that because there's no time in heaven, there is no time on the other side. A minute could seem like an eternity, or 2 minutes could seem like an eternity. I know for me, my experiences, I may not have been there very long, but it seemed like I was there for weeks and weeks and weeks. There was so much happening, so much to see, so much to do. So what we might, we measure time here on earth with minutes and seconds and hours, but in heaven, that's not how it's measured. And so for someone who's afraid of the dark, to be in the dark for 2 minutes, it might seem like an absolute eternity of, fear. And then they start panicking and they start, imagining all of these monsters coming out to get them, or all of these awful things happening. I don't know how that all works. I just know that I didn't think anything. I wasn't, thinking of monsters coming out in the dark or demons reaching for me or anything like that. I was just resting. And so I didn't have any scary, thank God, scary things happen. So.
Yeah, I had one question about angels, because I've always kind of wondered where they come from. And I sort of have speculated that maybe they came from a prior world that consummated, that ended, and then they become angels to help other worlds or civilizations. Did you get any kind of perspective on where angels come from?
Yes, actually, I had what I talk about as a giant IB bottle of knowledge. And I had that with my second and with my third. And it was like getting infused with divine wisdom and divine knowledge. And one of the things was angels, because I saw angels in both of them. And I have seen angels since. And, and what I learned was that angels are totally separate creations than what we are. And we are created beings. They are created beings. Demons are created beings. However, angels are spirit. Their essence is spirit. Their station is angel, which means messenger of God, which means their main priority is to serve God by serving humankind. That's what they do. And they can, because they are spirit, they can appear as humans or animals or birds or whatever they need to appear as in order to get the job done. But I have also known that angels are creatures of great action and very little words. And they come and they do what God's asked them to do to help whoever it is that needs the help. They do what they do, and then they leave, and they don't wait for the thank yous, because the thank yous, they want God to get the glory. They want God to get the thank yous. They don't want them themselves. That's not what they come for. And so they come, they do their job, they leave, and that's it. It's not, a lot of people think that angels are that our loved ones who die grow wings and become angels, but that's a beautiful thought, and they become saints in heaven, but they don't become angels, because angels and humans are two totally separate creations. That's the information that I got.
So like, if they appear as animals, is that where a lot of Native American spirituality, where they would see animals like, there's the blue buffalo lady or something?
Oh, a white buffalo calf
Yeah.
woman?
Yeah.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. Was that an appearance?
She
of an
was
angel?
a wonderful, she was a much higher spiritual being than that. And from what I understand, she appeared to the Lakota at the same time that Jesus appeared to, to the Jewish people and to the, people in Jerusalem. There was about the same time period. And what she did was she brought the 7 rites of initiation, or the sacred pipe, and the there's 7 spiritual principles and 7 rites and things like that. Their ceremonies. So she brought that to them. So it was like, but she came in the form of a buffalo, which they could understand, and she did appear as a woman, but when she left, she rolled over and turned into a white buffalo, and they were able to see that as a sign of, that this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. And she's good, and her message is good, and her message brought hope and unity. And just like Jesus's message brings hope and unity. And if you stop and look at all the different religions, there has been prophets. There have been holy people that have come, and they all talk about the same kind of message, central message of love. Love your neighbor, love God, love your neighbor, and you're going to be okay if you do that. Respect each other, honor each other, and, stop all the wars and stop all the garbage, and then everybody's going to be just fine. But it's, people aren't listening to those messages anymore, but they seem to be in just about every tradition. That's my understanding of her. But as far as I posted a story not long ago about a wolf that showed up in my yard. I live in the city. I've lived here for 9 years. Never in my life have I seen a wolf on my street, in my yard, or anywhere near where I live. And people walk their dogs up and down my street all the time, but I've never seen. And this was a big timber wolf. And I'm sitting out on the porch, and out of the blue, this man appears across the street. I don't see him walking up and down the street. I'm sitting right there on the porch. I can see the street up and down both ways. I didn't see him anywhere. He just was right there by that tree across the street. And I get up and I go to the edge of my porch, and I said, "Oh, how beautiful." And I said his dog was beautiful. He said, "That's not a dog, it's a wolf." I said, "I know, but I wasn't going to say that out loud." And so he brought the wolf over to me, and he said, "If he comes up to you, then you can touch him. If he doesn't come up to you, you can't touch him." I said, "Okay, that's fine." And so I walked down the steps, and I'm standing on the concrete, the walk in front of my house. And this wolf comes right up to me and is standing right next to me. And he's so tall that he's like up in my hips, And so I reached down and I'm petting him. And the man says, "Wolves don't look in your eyes. They don't like to look in people's eyes." And as soon as he said that, the wolf turned its head and looked right in my eyes. And I started petting his top of his head and his ears. And he was just as precious as he could be. He was so big, but he was so beautiful. Now, whether that was an angel or not, I don't know, because he appeared out of nowhere and he disappeared out of nowhere. But the fact is that God sent what I needed, exactly what I needed to brighten my day, because it was a hard day. Had it been anything, I mean, he knows exactly what we need. And for a wolf to show up, that I was just dancing for joy. I started crying. And the man said, that I told him I was sorry. I was so overjoyed by this beautiful wolf that I just couldn't contain it. I was crying. I was so happy. And I don't know why, but in that moment, that man was my angel. That wolf was my angel. Now, whether they were real or not, I don't know. But I mean, it's experiences like that, and I have known of people who have had car accidents and angels appear, get them out of the trouble they're in, and they disappear. I mean, I've had some of those instances too. So if someone is in an avalanche, they'll send out a dog to dig them out, to sniff them out and dig them out of the snow or whatever. It could be a dog, a horse, or whatever. But I think angels can come in any form that they want to. And yes, like you just mentioned, the native people, they have, eagles and hawks and wolves and horses and all of these and buffaloes and all these magnificent animals that very possibly could be angels to them.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on the show. Is there any words you'd like to leave before we close out?
Well, the only thing that it's a couple big things that I learned from all these experiences is that death is easy. It's living that's hard. And people don't need to be afraid of death, because we don't stop going on. We do continue to be who we are. I was always who I was. I didn't lose my identity. I didn't disappear into nothing. I was still me. I still look like me. Even, in my second and third NDE both, I had body. I looked like me, better version of me. So it's not a scary thing. It doesn't need to be a scary thing. And it's nothing more than walking from one room in your house to the next room. It's very seamless. And the other thing is that we are loved. God loves us, and we're not alone. And he thinks about you every single second of every single day. That's how important each one of us is. And if we remember that, then, life will be easier, because we're not alone here and we're not alone there.
Yeah, that's a good word. So do you have any, do you have a book or something? Because I thought you have a book, don't you?
I do. I have a book called A Song in the Wind, and I also have a children's book called A Rose from Heaven. And both of those you can get on Amazon. Also, right now, I'm writing the Gray Eagle story. And I've also started writing the second part to A Song in the Wind, because A Song in the Wind has my first two experiences in it.
And is there anywhere where they can connect with you on social media, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere?
Yeah, they can get me on Facebook. I have a Sharon Milliman WordPress. They can get me. They can get me on Facebook, and I can, if they want to talk on the phone, I'm willing to talk to people on the phone or email, or whatever they need, whatever makes them comfortable or helps them or whatever, available. So I just love connecting with people and helping in whatever way I can.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.